As the evening fog descended, Yug found Kachua trembling near the graveyard. The sight of dead crows scattered around amplified the eerie atmosphere, painting a picture of a mystery yet to be unraveled. Yug, concerned, shook Kachua gently, urging him to explain the inexplicable deaths linked to the graveyard's closure. The words that tumbled out of Kachua's mouth sent a chill down Yug's spine. Yakshini, a malevolent entity, was purportedly behind these deaths. Yug's surprise was evident. He recalled a wise Baba's claim that Yakshini's destructive desires had ceased with his father's death, but Kachua, with a grimace, corrected this misinformation. A witch's thirst for harm, he insisted, only intensifies over time. Abhimanyu, who had been listening quietly, chimed in, underscoring the prevalence of misinformation in rural communities. He explained that fear often breeds stories, and these stories, in turn, fuel fear, creating an endless cycle. As the conversation deepened, Kachua began to narrate the events leading up to the graveyard's closure. He spoke of religious leaders who had sacrificed themselves in a desperate attempt to imprison Yakshini. The revelation left Yug grappling with disbelief and horror. Yug challenged Kachua's assertion that they had inadvertently freed Yakshini. He argued that they had spent a peaceful night in the graveyard, untouched by any supernatural occurrences. Kachua struggled to explain, and the debate reached an impasse. Abhimanyu, ever the pragmatist, suggested they wait for the upcoming full moon to ascertain the truth. Their banter, however, was interrupted by the tortoise's insistence on involving Bindu, a childhood friend, in their graveyard adventure. The chilling tales, the eerie graveyard, and the mystery of Yakshini had taken center stage. Yet, amid the fear and uncertainty, a question hung heavy in the cool evening air. In the silence of the graveyard, a question hung in the air. Had they unknowingly freed Yakshini? Kachua's voice trembled as he began narrating the sacrificial past. He spoke of intrepid religious leaders who had once walked the same ground they now stood on. Their faces etched with determination, they had made the ultimate sacrifice to contain Yakshini's malevolent energy within the graveyard's stone-cold walls. The leaders had given their lives, a price paid in blood and faith, to ensure the village's safety from the witch's wrath. Yug, his mind spinning from the revelation, struggled to reconcile this tale of sacrifice with the peaceful night they had spent in the graveyard. He voiced his doubts, his words a mix of skepticism and confusion. "But we were there, in the graveyard, and nothing happened. Are you sure we've unleashed Yakshini?" His question hung heavy in the air like the static before a storm. Kachua, his eyes wide with fear, fumbled for an explanation, but words failed him, and the trio found themselves at an impasse, caught between the chilling lore and their own experiences. It was then that Abhimanyu, practical and level-headed, intervened. "Let's not jump to conclusions," he suggested, his voice steady. "The full moon is coming up. That's when Yakshini is said to be at her strongest. We'll go back to the graveyard then and see for ourselves if the tales are true." His words, a blend of logic and curiosity, diffused the tension. They offered a plan, a tangible course of action amidst the swirling uncertainties. The thought of confronting Yakshini, of validating the sacrificial past, was daunting. Yet it held a strange allure, a call to adventure that was hard to resist. As the echoes of the past faded, a new plan was forming, to confront Yakshini on the night of the full moon. With the full moon approaching, the trio decided to involve an old friend, the coward, Bindu. Their journey was dressed in uncertainty, but the rain pouring down on them as they tread towards Bindu's shop brought a strange sense of serenity. Despite initial resistance, Yug and Abhimanyu, drenched and chilled to the bone, agreed on one thing: bringing Bindu into this storm. They trudged through the rain-soaked streets of Meghalaya, a place known for its incessant downpours. The rain, they mused, was as much a part of Meghalaya as the legends and folklore that hung like a mist around the villages. As they navigated the winding roads, the conversation turned towards the climate. Abhimanyu, more of a city dweller, couldn't help but comment on the relentless rain. "Meghalaya," Yug replied, "the abode of clouds. It's a part of who we are, just like these stories of Yakshini." The raindrops drumming on their umbrellas echoed their anxiety, a rhythm of apprehension. Yet they knew they had to press on, for the sake of their village, for their own peace of mind, and for the truth that lay somewhere between the lines of fear and superstition. The rain washed the streets clean, reflecting the dim lights of the shops and houses. It was a sight both comforting and eerie, mirroring their current predicament. As they neared Bindu's shop, the pitter-patter of the rain seemed to drum louder, matching the beat of their anxious hearts. Bindu was a childhood friend, a familiar face, but involving him in this supernatural mystery felt like dragging him into an unseen whirlpool. They were unsure of his reaction, of how he would handle the news of Yakshini's potential return, and the danger it presented. Yet they knew they couldn't face this alone. They needed all hands on deck, even if one of those hands trembled with fear. As they stood outside Bindu's shop with the rain pouring down, they wondered, would Bindu's involvement change their fate? Upon reaching Bindu's shop, they found him engrossed in writing love letters for children. The sight of Bindu, hunched over his desk, pen in hand, and focused on his task, was an amusing and somewhat endearing spectacle. The shop, filled with the scent of old books and ink, was a comforting haven from the rain-soaked streets of Meghalaya. As Bindu looked up, his eyes met Yug's. A spark of recognition flared in Bindu's eyes. "Yug?" he asked, uncertainty lacing his voice. A slow smile spread across Yug's face as he nodded, confirming Bindu's suspicion. "Long time no see, Bindu," Yug responded, the familiar banter between them surfacing easily. The two friends began to reminisce about their childhood days, their shared laughter echoing in the small shop. They relived their petty fights, their daring adventures, and their shared dreams. The nostalgia was palpable, imbuing the shop with a warmth that contrasted the chilling tales of Yakshini. Meanwhile, a young girl named Bindia entered the shop, interrupting their trip down memory lane. She was there for her love letter, a task that Bindu undertook with surprising seriousness. The interaction between Bindia and Bindu was amusing, their banter lightening the ominous atmosphere that had been looming over the day. However, the light-hearted moment was short-lived. Bindu's gaze returned to Yug, suspicion creeping into his eyes. He had sensed something different about his old friend, something darker. "What brings you here, Yug?" he asked, his tone laced with curiosity and concern. Yug remained silent, not ready to reveal their supernatural endeavors just yet. As they left Bindu's shop, they couldn't help but wonder, what role would Bindu play in their supernatural mystery? His childhood connection to Yug and his current position in the village made him a potential ally, or perhaps a potential threat. Only time would tell, but for now they could only speculate and prepare for the full moon, which was just around the corner. As the moonlight filtered through the clouds, a chilling wind foretold the arrival of the full moon. The village, once bustling with life, now lay eerily silent. The anticipation hung heavy in the air, as if the village itself held its breath, awaiting the unfolding of the night's events. The trio, Yug, Abhimanyu, and now Bindu, stood at the precipice of the unknown, their fates intertwined with the looming full moon. In this tale where past and present collide, the childhood friends find themselves grappling with a supernatural mystery. The rumors of Yakshini, the malevolent entity, were no longer just whispers in the wind. They had taken form, casting a long, ominous shadow over the village and its inhabitants. Bindu, the reluctant participant in this eerie adventure, was now a part of this unfolding saga. His role was yet to be defined, his fate yet to be decided. Would his cowardice stand in the way, or would it be his unlikely strength in the face of danger? As the full moon approached, the trio's encounter with Yakshini seemed inevitable. The graveyard, once a symbol of peace and finality, had transformed into a battleground. The trio, armed with courage and fortified by their friendship, were ready to face whatever the night had in store for them. But Yakshini was not just a tale spun by the villagers, she was a force to be reckoned with, a power untamed. The unveiling of her true nature was imminent. As the trio ventured deeper into the night, they stood on the brink of a revelation that could change their lives forever. But with every tick of the clock, the suspense grew. The wind howled, the trees rustled, and the full moon cast long, eerie shadows. The trio, once inseparable friends, now stood united against an unseen enemy. The stakes were high, and the danger was real. As the night deepened, one question loomed. Would they survive the night of the full moon?